on this week's episode of The Chris and Andre Show.
There was the trailer for the Zack Snyder cut, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, didn't this movie already come out? Like, I thought Ben Affleck was done being Batman,
Right.
And then it's the Snyder cut, and I'm like, they have a trailer just for his cut? And I know that people made a huge deal about it when the movie came out, that, they cut all this out of the movie. I hate to tell you, but unless you were just a huge DC movie comic verse nerd, you're not going to like this any better. Like, it's just not.
I would disagree from the trailers. I kid you not. I think that the things that were cut out from what I've read make the movie make more sense.
I mean, I'm not.
So that's where I would argue. So maybe
I never saw the movie in the first place because I've never been Zack Snyder is not really like my type of movie director. I haven't generally enjoyed or found his movies to be that it's just not my aesthetic.
I'll tell you what, ever since I started working with you, like I used to not care about the director of the movie. I just care if the movie was good or not. I got to up my director game, man. Like I'm like, all right, so this guy's got like a freaking portfolio of movies that I've not watched, and he links them all. I think you have a board in your room with like directors and strength. So
yeah, but I hide it over here on the wall. You can't see.
Oh, I'm like, how does he know all that crap, man?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about it before a little bit, but I've just been a huge nerd when it comes to pop culture stuff. Like my parents raised me on The Simpsons since I was like 7 years old. It was our Thursday night tradition. We would always like power through dinner so we could sit down and watch it together. Then when it moved to Sundays, we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And we're like, well, we're going to watch it on Sunday nights. But yeah, and that started it though, because The Simpsons had so many pop culture references that they made themselves that it's like even things that occurred prior to my generation or like that occurred not while I was necessarily like, old enough to really remember and experience it, because Simpsons made a reference to it.
You go research it.
Right. Or just, it was like over time I started to understand what that reference ultimately meant, but
so
because
you'd be sitting somewhere and just start laughing hysterically.
Yeah. Okay. So what this ultimately led to was that in high school, my friends and I say my friends, the former band members and I would go to like McDonald's or Taco Bell, and while we're standing there in line waiting to get our food, we would play this game, which is basically 7 Steps to Kevin Bacon. Yeah. Right, where you'd start anywhere, and by naming movies and actors that were in them, and then subsequent movies that they were in with other actors, you can get to Kevin Bacon. Well, we would play this game without an end, like just to see if we could keep naming another actor in that movie, and then another movie that actor was in, and it would just go around the circle. And so that was a big part of it, was that like it was required knowledge to, like win this game at any point, even though there wasn't really a winner, but it was basically like if you could name a movie that the person after you could not name an actor in, or vice versa. But the key is you had to be able to answer that question too. It couldn't be like, well, I have no idea who else is in that movie, because then there's no way for you to back it up.
I did different things.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's some white people shit right there. I'm well aware.
To hear the rest, tune into this week's episode of The Chris and Andre Show.